Oh my gosh, so here we are with another, our 101st episode of Good Fat Life, and it's just exciting. I am so grateful for the people we keep meeting and the guidance that comes in and the, I don't know, there's just so many people doing such amazing things on this planet, and our guest falls into an amazing person doing amazing things on the planet. And before I introduce her, I just want to remind you that if you like what you hear, you can go to goodfatlife.com and check out our website and our new magazine that's coming out at the end of the month. And also we will be putting out where our workshop is October 27th, 29th. It's the last weekend in October, and we are so excited about it. So anyway, so here we are. So my guest today, I had the good fortune of meeting her at a health network that's kind of started in Brighton, just full of amazing people. And her name is Carolyn LaPan, and she has this incredible and unique combination of psychology and nutrition, right?
Yes,
so,
that's correct.
So Carolyn, tell us about the name of your company, because I want to hear the story behind that, and then let's start talking about how nutrition and psychology intersect, and that's what it takes really to be successful.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. This is super exciting. So the name of my company is called SatoriCL, and I chose that because the word Satori means healing from within through education and understanding and enlightenment.
Oh, I'm just getting those little chills, right? Because it's just so, oh my gosh, okay.
Yeah, I love learning about the human body, anatomy, physiology, nutrition. And I just landed on nutrition, and so I like sharing that and teaching people. So it's becoming healthier through enlightenment and learning. So that's what Satori means, and then CL are my initials. So my company is SatoriCL.
Awesome! Oh my gosh, that just says so much, right? In one word. So did you think you started out as a psychologist or a therapist?
Yes. So back in college, I have 2 majors in psychology. So my master's degree is in humanistic and clinical psychology. So I love the humanistic piece of it.
But what does that mean exactly?
And so, I mean, just really, it's not focusing on a specific behavior, or it's not focusing on a specific, mental health condition. It's looking at the whole person holistically.
Okay.
So, and humanistically. So I got that degree and that license many years ago. We moved to Minneapolis, my husband and I, and so we had to, when I got there, I was going to just continue in that field, but licensing is different from state to state. So I did a little shift and career change, but my heart was always there, and I've just always been interested in nutrition. So I've more recently gone back for some education around that.
Around nutrition?
And so I have 2 certifications, and so I'm a functional nutrition and lifestyle practitioner is my official title.
Is your official title. Okay, and there's something, I mean, what is, there's some, functional is not an accident that it's there, right? So what does functional nutritionist mean?
Great question. I get that a lot because it's a little bit of a newer term. So functional nutrition, again, kind of is the same thread as the holistic piece. So we look at all systems of the body because we believe that everything is important and everything is connected. So functional nutrition specifically will keep digging until we find the root of a health problem. So if you have, say, a skin rash, you might go to the dermatologist and they'll give you a cream and it goes away. But once you stop that, there's a good chance it might return. So I like to give the example of if someone has digestive issues and they're feeling depressed and they have a rash, they might go to the gastroenterologist and a psychiatrist and a dermatologist, so we have all these medical, specific pillars and modalities, which again have its benefits at times. However, if it's something chronic that's been going on, then functional nutrition will say, well, maybe it's all stemming from one thing. And a lot of times that has to do with the health of the gut and what we're eating.
Got it. And that makes a ton of sense. And it's so, what do I want to say? It's mysterious in its way, right? and it's the center of our bodies. Yeah. And we know so little about it.
There's so much research, and it's so exciting to learn about, the terms microbiome, intestine impermeability, leaky gut. There's so much to that can really affect anything from autoimmune to cognitive issues to cardiovascular. I mean, it's our like you said, our central location, and what we eat is information. So
to that, so I have been reading that there's a brain in our gut, and so can you talk to that a little for a minute? Because to me, that's just fascinating.
Yeah, I would love to talk to you about that. So the brain-gut connection is a bilateral communication system. And we have the majority of our serotonin, like 80% of it, our feel-good, is in our stomach. So if we have too much bacteria, if we have leaky gut, that interferes with the receptors, and our serotonin is depleted.
So for our listeners, leaky gut. What is leaky gut?
Yeah, so leaky gut means, so you have, your stomach is one cell thick. The lining is one cell thick.
It's just hard to comprehend, isn't it? Right?
It absolutely. I mean, that's what's just so fascinating is so much goes on at the cellular level that, we don't really have to think about day to day, but there's so much going on. So our stomach wall they have these tight gap junctions. And so it literally will open and close quickly to let in like water, things like that. And that's how it's designed. But if we don't have a healthy gut, meaning we're eating a lot of sugary foods, a lot of highly processed foods, excess alcohol, excess caffeine, artificial coloring, things like that, then those tight gap junctions will open and stay open. So what the problem with that is, bacteria that's outside of your gut and stomach that's supposed to stay outside can come in, that bacteria that shouldn't be there, And then the other part is food that's partially digested can leak out. And the reason that's bad is because your immune system will say, hey, what's this big particle that shouldn't be here in the blood system? And it'll attack it.
Okay, and it could just be a piece of broccoli that didn't get digested.
Yeah, it could be protein that's not broken down all the way, right? So there's different stages of breakdown in macronutrients. So, for example, proteins are polypeptides, peptides, amino acids. And once they're in that amino acid state, then they can go into the bloodstream, go to your muscles, make you stronger. But if they leak out prior to that, your immune system says, hey, I don't recognize you, you shouldn't be here. And it attacks it, and that can lead to inflammation.
I was going to say inflammation,
so you wake up and your joints are sore. Yeah, I mean, then there's a whole nother cascade of issues. So I'm kind of went a little bit off topic, but back to the brain-gut connection is that inflammation can go to your brain as well. So, and lead to brain fog and
all those other things. Yeah, it's just
it's all connected. It's all connected.
And I was raised with my family are DOs, right? And so we were always trained that we were all connected. And even and this wasn't with the DO, but it was also that mind, body, spirit. It's all one big thing, right? And then so much of medicine has gotten so compartmentalized, and I think it's really done us a disservice because of what you're saying. It's like, well, let's get back to the source. Our society just wants the pill to make it better and not understand what's really causing it, because something has to be.
Right.
right?
Right.
And I'm not saying medicine is wrong. I don't mean that at all.
I agree. Yeah.
So often it's valuable, but it's another tool if we go with the mind, body, spirit first, and then need to go outside of it.
Right. Yeah. And I agree completely, because I think there's a place, for all of us on this spectrum. So there are things that I will, if my kid has swollen lymph nodes and a really sore throat, I'm going to take them to the doctor, right? I mean, I'm not going to, I'm not against that. I'm not against pharmaceuticals. I think there's a time and a place for those. But I do believe that, to your point about it being, people want a quick fix. I mean, there's so much truth to that. And with functional nutrition and functional medicine, we can spend the time with individuals, where our primary doctors can't. I mean, the current setup, really, you go in once a year for your, annual physical, and you have 15 minutes,
Right.
So.
Yeah. Oh, it is so fascinating. So where, talk a little bit about the connection between the psychology and the actual food.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see that intersect?
Yeah, so the psychology piece behind it, so much of what we do every day is out of habit, right? I mean, so much we are on autopilot on, and, kind of like people walk in the house from being out, and you go straight to the pantry, right? So,
or every time you walk to the kitchen, you can check their fridge.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And, so many people having worked from home, it's like you just, after a meeting, you go downstairs to the kitchen. I mean, it's just without even thinking, just get up, walk around, and go straight to the kitchen. So, there's a difference between craving and hunger. And when I heard this, I just recently kind of differentiated between the two. So the difference is, craving is when you I need to have chocolate now. I need to have something salty now. Like almost to the point where you're aware, this bag of chips, it's not good for me, but that's fine. I'm going to do it anyway, and I'll be better tomorrow. That's craving. And there's some chemical stuff going on in your brain when that's the case. So that's a psychology piece that is worth investigating more and talking about more. So cravings, really can sabotage a person's health goals. Now, hunger, on the other hand, is different in that, for example, if I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh, this room, it feels great. But for example, if I said, oh, it's a little chilly, then I could say, if I were, responsible for the temperature, I would turn it up maybe 1 degree or 2, but it's okay. I can deal with it. It's not that big of a deal. So hunger is when you're in the car on a road trip and you say, to the person next to you, are you hungry? And well, not right now, but I could eat in probably about in an hour or so I should eat. So there's a big difference between those two.
Okay, I see. And so craving is much more immediate and urgent.
Very much so, yeah.
So what would be something you would suggest when you know that, I had that happen last night, right? I told you I had a really long day, a 24-hour day yesterday. And about 11 o'clock last night, my body's like, I want some chips.
Yeah.
And I have these chips. They're actually really good nutrition. Their fiber to carb content is lots of fiber.
Oh, great.
And they're made with great fat. So I save them, right? But I still don't eat them every day, right? But there was an urgency around it. I'm going to eat these chips. And so what would be a tool to just calm that down a little bit?
Right. So if someone's really trying to eat healthier, what I say is, because you don't want to switch over to eating 100% healthy 100% of the time. I don't do that. So I'm not going to ask people
to do
that. Yeah. So what I would say is I like to tell people to plan their splurge. Have a splurge, but plan it. So you're not giving into the moment. So for example, if I say, tomorrow's Friday, and just my personal plan. I'm going to have just whatever I feel like on Friday for dinner. So knowing that that's coming up is something that I can look forward to and wait. Now, I'm not going to say, oh, I'm going to have, I can't wait. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to eat something, like a deep dish. I can't wait to eat and hype it up and put all this emotion behind it. So I'm just going to say, if I feel like having something that's, whatever I feel like, that's just going to be, you can have it.
But is there something like immediate, so you go, oh, I really want, some people in my family just crave ice cream. Yeah. And it's so, I really want ice cream. So is there something you can do right in that moment that stops that craving, or that at least slows it down a little bit, so you're actually making a cognitive choice, not a emotional choice? Yeah.
So there's a couple things you can do. One, if it's a sweet craving, some people just go straight to gum. They'll put
okay. Just gum.
1, 2, 3 pieces of gum in their mouth. If it's salty chips, some pickle juice.
Okay.
It's really good. Don't
I love pickle juice, actually.
Okay.
My granddaughter and I can eat a whole jar of those baby dill gherkins.
Yeah. My
Great
son
idea.
and I, and it's great, for electrolytes if you're feeling dehydrated or just had a really good workout. Pickle juice is fantastic.
Okay.
Also bone broth is something that sometimes I sip on, and that'll curb a craving. But the other thing too, if you can get out of the house, go for a walk for 10 minutes, that oftentimes will be enough for your brain to be like, okay, I got this. Yeah.
All right. No, those are great hints, right? It's good to have those little things in your, arsenal, if you will.
Yeah. And just, one more thing back to the psychology piece is the attitude around, not, I want to lose 20 pounds. I can't wait to lose 20 pounds. I'll feel much better when I do, and I'll look better when I do. And it's, spin it in a positive way, because this is your unconscious working too, right? So if you say something like, I feel great when I'm this weight, I feel great when, and then just plug in whatever your goal is. So,
so you're not projecting that your life's going to be different at this different weight.
Yeah.
You're like, I love my life now.
Yeah.
And this is nice too.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly. Okay. I love my life now. And because a lot of people, depending on their situation, I've worked with people where they feel like their body's really turned on them. And it's really, looking at food, what it can do to you. Yeah, it can do things that are harmful, right? If we abuse it, but food can also do so much for you if we look at what's available and eating more, plant-based things and protein. And, I'm not personally on any special diet, but I just, all the green leafy vegetables are so good for you. And if you can add healthy fats.
There you go. I was going to ask you. So what do you think about healthy fats?
Oh my gosh. Avocado toast is like the best breakfast ever. It's really easy to add good fats to meals. So salads, you can put, sardines are so good for you. Anchovies are really good for you.
And that makes an amazing Caesar salad dressing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, for sure. Put some seeds on it. Another thing would be if you have, if you want to have some sweets like chocolate, have some nuts with it, because then you're balancing out, it's not just all the chocolate. So that'll really help blood sugar.
Got it.
Going for a walk after a meal is really helpful for blood sugar balance.
I started to hear, just tiny, that just has kind of like creeped into my vision recently, that how important that can be.
Yeah.
So like 10 minutes, like eat dinner and go for a 10-minute walk?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Exactly. Yeah. Just getting things moving, and it really will help with getting the blood sugar out of, helping the insulin and production, things like that.
Which is huge for so many things.
Yeah. I can add one more thing.
Yeah.
Since I'm thinking about it, since you mentioned the Caesar salad after the
Yeah.
anchovies and the sardines. Salmon is fantastic. So you want to stay away from the larger fishes like, halibut, swordfish, tuna. You hear a lot about tuna and mercury.
Right.
And one of the things that I like to share, going back to my company name, Satori and educating, is the reason why tuna has so much mercury is because we have, factories, big businesses, usually on waterfront, right? Or has been that way for many years.
Okay, yeah.
So factories there's pollution associated and heavy metals, and that will go into the rivers and streams and oceans and settle on the floor. So small fishes will eat the plants on the bottom, and that has these heavy metals on them. And then medium fish will eat the small fish, and then the big fish will eat that. So there's all this mercury from the water, and these bigger fish are now full of it.
Oh, okay.
Smaller. Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know because there is that. I love tuna.
Yeah.
Tuna with an avocado mash.
Yeah. No, I do. I eat it too. I just, try to limit it, but it is good for sure. I mean, it tastes, I like sushi. I just don't personally will eat like big tuna steaks. And I like to have, when I buy fish, have it be wild, not farm raised. So knowing the source too is really important.
We recently started getting a CSA, which is, a box of vegetables from a local organic farm. And it's just fun to support the local farmers, right?
Absolutely.
I love what they're doing.
Yeah.
But the other thing is it gets variety into my day in a creative way. So I don't know about you, but I can just we can get in such a rut with what we eat.
Oh, sure.
But since we're getting this weekly box of vegetables through, the late spring and into the fall, it's like vegetable surprise.
Yeah.
And so like this morning I had a hard-boiled egg and green beans with olive oil and salt that I put in my air fryer for a couple of minutes so it takes they're just crispy. And it was amazingly delicious, but it was easy for me to be creative.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like, okay, I have this stuff here. What am I going to do with it? And I don't want it to go to waste because that wouldn't serve the purpose, right? So I'm just finding that if I can do those things that add interest and variety, and so the creative part is around, again, the what am I going to do with this box?
Absolutely.
And instead of, I don't even know where to start.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. It's almost like a fun little challenge. What can I do with this?
Exactly. And so I'm finding that, this, and I have this belly fat that I really want to get rid of. And so if you've got some thoughts on, how to get rid of that, I would love to hear them. But making having pickle juice on hand, I love that.
Yeah.
But making those little things that you can do all day long that I'm loving my life today, and it's going to support me in the future, right? So, what do you think? What do you think about belly fat?
Yeah, so that's a common issue. And, one of the things is when people talk about elimination diets, they oftentimes will start with gluten and with dairy. So, I've seen people have really good results from that. So both of those two items have been known to contribute to the leaky gut that I was talking about earlier.
Okay.
So,
and are you saying that there's a correlation between leaky gut and belly fat?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's the first time I've heard that.
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And the inflammation as well. The other thing I want to mention is you really should stop eating at least 2 hours before you go to bed. And the reason for that is because it takes about 2 hours for your stomach to empty. And you want your stomach to be empty when you're sleeping, because if not, we spend about 20% of our energy all day long, all night long, digesting food. Okay. So that's a pretty significant amount of resources.
Our energy. Oh, yeah. And thought about it that way.
That's digesting our food. So if we don't eat a couple hours before bed, then fall asleep, and our belly's empty, then our resources can be allocated to burning fat, cellular repair, getting rid of all the old like red blood cells, cells that are just kind of hanging around, maybe precancerous cells, things like that. So it can do a lot of the housekeeping when we're not digesting food. So that's
really interesting.
Yeah, that kind of leads into, there's a lot of science behind intermittent fasting.
Oh, right.
Or time-based fasting. And it can be effective if done correctly. So that's something else that I can, that I work with people on. But yeah, when people talk about belly fat, I mean, those are a couple things, really even just, like I said, stopping eating before bed is big. Because
so no chips at 11, which I know that. But
I know
still,
we all know that.
Right.
We all do. But and then just the other thing too, which we haven't talked about yet, is you could have the best diet in the world, but if you're not sleeping, then sleep is so important. We really need to make sure that our body is getting the rest that it needs.
So that could be the conversation around another episode on sleep.
Oh yeah,
Sleep.
I have a whole 3-part series presentation on sleep. So it's fascinating.
My gosh, that's great to know. Yes, I would love to do that. Let's cycle that back, and we'll have one on sleep.
I would love it.
So, well, good. So I want to just take a little moment and do a shout out for one of our sponsors. For Hands on Health, Dr. Rushford and his team. They are amazing chiropractors, and it's the list of things in your life that you can't do without, and it's my relationship with Hands on Health and their practice there. So, because spine health is amazing,
right?
My
gosh, so important.
It helps for everything, for sleep and for well-being, and if I need to go to the chiropractor, I can be really hard to be around. Right. So I'm so grateful for that they're there. And actually, it's such an amazing space. I love walking in. The energy is just phenomenal. So thank you to Hands on Health. And so is there any one thing we like to ask our guests, if there's one thing that you could say to our listeners to help them get started on living a little, maybe we always like to say their good fat life, one or two things they could start right now.
Yeah, I like to share. I have a few life hacks that I like to share. Okay. One of them is just really around, like I just mentioned, about the not eating just a couple hours before bed. That's really beneficial. The other one is, we always hear like, oh, you shouldn't use your phones before bed. Blue light is bad. And I like to explain why that is. And the reason for it is because we have this pineal gland right here. And when it sees colors of purple, pink, orange, it says, okay, now time to produce melatonin, which is what helps us fall asleep. But when we're looking at our phones, which is interpreted as blue, that pineal gland doesn't start the melatonin. That's why we can't fall asleep. So it likes those colors of purple, pink, orange, and that's why the sunset is purple, pink, orange, which I found fascinating when I learned that. I was like, I just love learning kind of the reason behind things like that.
Right. I've recently started studying around our circadian rhythms. Mm-hmm. And yes, we can talk about that when we do the sleep follow-up, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. That's
because there's no accidents. Yeah. The sunset is, it's not an accident that those are the colors in the sunset that correlates with our brain.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How fascinating is that?
The sleep session sounds really exciting. And then just one more thing too, that people can take away today is when you wake up first thing in the morning, some people go straight for coffee, some people go straight for water. If you can go to the bathroom and swish around water in your mouth first, spit it out, do that a couple times. And then the reason for that is because all night long you have this bacteria that's been in your mouth, right? Kind of working. And if you just go straight for a big glass of water, you're consuming all of that bacteria and it's going into your gut. So it's just a way to.
Oh, good to know. I use my water pick the first thing in the morning.
Perfect.
So, I had no idea that was actually a really good time to use it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Before I drink anything, any coffee or anything, I use the water pick.
Yeah. People tend to like that hack. It's easy.
Yeah. It's good. Good to know. I mean, but those are the things to me that makes the day fun. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh my gosh, I just got the best gift, right? I know I'm doing this thing and it's, and it's helpful.
And little things like we've talked about, and flossing is so important for cardiovascular health. I mean, little things that we do today can really change the trajectory of our health later on in life. So, I hope you found this helpful.
Oh my gosh, I did. And I just spent the last week in Oregon with my family and my parents are in their mid-80s. And they've had so many good habits in their life. They're doing well, but then there are things that maybe could have been done differently that would have changed some of the symptoms that they're having now. And it's not bad. It's just awareness, right? Yeah, who knew? Right. Who knew that, using your water pick in the morning would eliminate this deterioration or slow it down, right?
Right.
So all good, all good. Well, it's been such a delight having you. And so if people wanted to find you, where would they find you?
Sure. So my website is SatoriCL.com.
Okay.
And that's SatorCL.com. And then Carolyn at SatoriCL.com is my email address. On Instagram, Facebook, it's Satori_CL.
Oh, CL. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for
You're
being
welcome.
here. What a delight. Okay. Take care.
Thanks. You too.